Okay, as you know, we run the Starter Story main channel where we interview million-dollar founders who built amazing online businesses from nothing. We do a lot of videos on that channel. And one thing that we do before we interview anyone is we have a conversation with them before to learn more about their business and what's working right now. These conversations are amazing. We get to learn so much. So I thought, why don't we actually share what we've learned in these conversations here for you on the Starter Story podcast? In this episode, we're going to go over the founders that we talked to just this week to share with you some amazing business ideas, things that are working right now that you probably have never heard of. These founders are crushing it. And these businesses are super impressive. So I hope you also get to learn something from these conversations. Welcome back to the Starter Story podcast. These are the founders I talked to this week and some of the amazing businesses they've built. Let's go.
So over the past couple of weeks, we've talked to dozens of founders, and it's really the first time for me that I'm seeing some of these behind the scenes conversations. And these are really cool because I feel like I'm just getting a ton of information and then just like seeing how these people that have built $1 million, $3 million businesses do things and run things.
Yeah.
And so I thought it'd be cool if we kind of just talked about some of the ones we've talked to this week. So I have kind of three of them. We have three of them that we talked to that I think would be interesting for the audience to also get a little bit behind the scenes on.
Yeah. I mean, before we jump into any of the people, I mean, what has your experience been like just seeing, you probably see people online and how they, create content, that sort of thing. But what was the difference between when we got on these calls and we started kind of talking behind the scenes that you noticed?
Yeah, it's a great question. Probably a lot I could say, but one of the things is when you see people creating stuff online, you almost think there's some like otherworldliness to them. Like they have some secret sauce or they have some like special powers
yeah,
that like I don't have. And I'm not saying, of course, that they're not impressive or anything like that because they really are. But when you talk to them, you're kind of like, oh, how did you do that? And they're like, well, I did XYZ thing and I did it one step at a time. And I'm like, well, no shit. Of course that's how you did it.
Yeah.
And as someone for learning how all this stuff works and trying to build my own things, sometimes I feel like I overthink it.
Yeah.
And I feel like I hear that a lot from like friends or other people that I know that are trying to start their businesses. They really like overthink what starting looks like.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. That's one thing I've learned from a few of these guys that we talked to.
Yeah. I think one thing that I always notice is that I don't think I've ever interviewed anyone on the channel or shared anyone's story or talked to anyone that like just started last year or something like that. Right? There's always like 5 to 7 years of not necessarily maybe like a whole business that they built and failed or whatever, but lots of tinkering, lots of toying, lots of even just desire to do this, right? It's never like, oh, I want to do it. And then I started and now it's successful,
Totally. Yeah, there's obviously a few of these like success stories of people that are just like, my first thing killed. But yeah, you're right. For all these people, it's always like this little journey they've been on, and it all sort of leads to finally this successful thing.
Cool. All right. Well, let's dive in.
Yeah. So let's start with this first guy. I'll share my screen this is a guy named Jacob Seeger. He co-founded a business called Faceless Video. When we talked to him, he said this. So what Faceless Video is, it's this like automated short form videos built with AI.
Yep.
He said he's making over $1 million a year with this business. And I think he said he built it in like 10 months or something like that with him and his co-founder.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's obviously more we could like talk through here, but the main thing is just like these faceless videos that help people create content automatically and obviously help those people make money and they pay them a certain amount to use the product.
Yep.
The coolest thing for me was that he built the whole thing with this tool, which I'm sure a lot of people know, called Bubble.
Yeah. And
Bubble is like, it's kind of a little bit older, right? I think this has been around for a little while.
Yeah, Bubble's been around for as long as I've been in the game. So at least 5 years.
Yeah, it's like the OG cursor.
Yeah.
Bubble is basically like a no-code builder. It helps you create apps and stuff without like knowing how to code.
Yeah.
And what's cool about, again, Jacob is like they built this app completely on Bubble. And he said they scaled it all the way to 1 million on Bubble.
Yeah, that was the surprising part for me. Like I hear a lot of people say they start on Bubble. It's easy. You can get the MVP created or the landing page created. But then he told me, oh, we're still on Bubble. And like, okay, I can kind of get that if you're like, okay, you built a job board or whatever. But this is a video automation tool. That's definitely like on the more complex end of the build, right? Going and turning a prompt into a video. I can see how it could be possible, but I was very surprised to hear that they stayed on Bubble.
Yeah, pretty impressive. And that's kind of one of my first takeaways is like, oh yeah, like when I think about like building stuff, I'm like, even though I know all these AI tools exist now, blah, 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 part of me is always like, but is it really worth, like, can you really build a big business off of with these quote simple tools?
Yeah.
And like, I guess the answer is yes.
Yeah.
And obviously, I think I know a lot of other examples like this, but especially talking to this guy, I was like, I guess, yeah, like that's, I guess I don't know, obviously there's lots of things that go into what the winning idea becomes, but the tools shouldn't be like a limiting thing.
You mentioned, can someone build a really big business on these tools? And I think that's like the key word, business, is like you can build a business without any tools. After talking to Jacob and his co-founder and really understanding like why things took off, they were very focused on the business side of things. We didn't even talk too much about the tech behind it. It was very, very much about customers, acquisition, attention. Although he was technical and he built it and he had a technical background, it really wasn't that much of a conversation. It was more like, this is just the tools we use because it was convenient and I already knew them. And the rest of the conversation was really about just the business and the product.
Yeah. And yeah, even as you say that, it's like a really good reminder. Like, and I've fallen into this trap so much where it's like, what tool should I use? What XYZ thing is the best for doing XYZ? And it's kind of like, it doesn't matter. Probably
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. And that's the thing, man. I always, in the boot camps that we've been doing, people always say like, well, why don't you do it with this? Why don't you do it with this? Can I do it with this tool? Can I do it with that tool? And my thing has always been just like, I'm just going to look it up on ChatGPT or Google and just see how to do it. If it's possible to even do it with my current stack. And if I really need to do it with something new, okay, I got to go learn that really quick and get it done. People immediately think about what tools do I need? And they don't think about what I notice is maybe more less of the successful type of founders people start is they think about the tools first and the solution second, or at least just the product or the outcome second. They think about the tools and the prompts and all these things.
So yeah, that's one thing about this guy that I was really impressed with. One other quick thing was he started another company. It's listed here in his bio called it's called Domino. It's like a marketing agency for musical artists.
Yeah.
And he talked with us about like how, not to spill the whole secret here, but like how his background was like, I think it was like an art major or something like that, or like a music major or something like that in college. And I don't know, that for some reason that is something I was also like kind of impressed by. Just the thought that like he started on a completely different path and now he's like running a mini tech company.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's kind of crazy to me.
I won't give away what actually happens, but it was actually what he learned at that company, serving lots of different clients, that led him to the Faceless idea. So if he hadn't been kind of grinding it out with that agency and talking to a lot of customers and understanding the, marketplace or what people needed or the customer or whatever, he probably wouldn't have come up with the idea for that. So I think that's also just like a trait that you see in a lot of successful founders is like just trying lots of different things and operating and just being curious. Like he saw this problem in his agency business. And then instead of being like, oh, that's just an annoying problem and I'll go on with my life, he started tinkering around with different ideas and technologies. And he went from guy who plays the guitar to a guy who codes apps. And that's something that you usually see with, or not usually, but you sometimes see with successful founders is they are like good at a lot of different things. They're proficient in a lot of different things. Mm-hmm. He could write a song, he could build an app, and he could put together a TikTok video. Like that's a pretty like deadly combination, right? Yeah. Like imagine how like maybe his songwriting helped with his storytelling of something. I don't know. Like these all kind of multi-skilled, multimodal type people are like usually like pretty badass.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. Cool. Yeah, so that's Jacob. I'm excited to when his video comes out. Okay, next guy. So talking about the like tinkering. This second guy isn't exactly like tinkering per se, but it's a guy named John Rush. So we talked to him, and this guy super impressive. I think for me, if you don't know who John Rush is, he's built maybe the summary is like he's built a bunch of different tools and little companies. He's built like 24 different ones. So let's go to his website here. He has 24. Yeah, here you go. 24 products, hundreds of thousands of users. He created this like AI coding tool. And here, as you can see, like all the different projects that he runs.
Yeah.
Some of them are like apps. Some of them are, a lot of them are directories, and then a lot of them are like kind of in process.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is John Rush. And I think for me, I mean, his story, I was so impressed with his story just because of like his background, where he came from, blah, blah, blah. But the way he talked about like just building lots of different tools and apps, I think the takeaway for me was like, I sometimes have put a lot of pressure to like have the one thing go right.
Yeah.
One business, one idea, whatever. And he was kind of like, I've built 24 things or 26 things or whatever it is. And all of them kind of sum up to my total amount of revenue or
Yeah.
or like bleed into each other, etc.
Yeah.
So that's one of my lessons from John.
Yeah. Imagine what you'd learn if you just forgot about the money, forgot about the what's going to happen if, someone doesn't like my app or, whatever. Imagine what would happen if you just built 24 things for the sake of it and what you would learn through that process. So you'd probably make money and you'd probably become a killer like John Rush. So I think that's a cool approach.
And then another thing he talked about, which I don't think this is spoiling too much, but I won't go into the full of it, but he basically said that's how he evaluates people that he may or may not want to work with, is he'll kind of see like, how much have you built? How much have you like shared about what you're working on?
Yeah.
And I saw this article recently that was like, it was about like college graduates. This is a little bit of a tangent. Basically saying like, we've moved from the like paper economy, meaning like all you need is a certificate or a degree,
Yeah.
to like the proof economy, like show me what you've done.
Yeah.
And he reminded me a lot of that idea of like, let me show you all the things I've done,
Yeah.
and that'll show you the kind of founder I am, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, there's a really easy eye test for anyone on Twitter or anyone that you follow or anything. Is just go into the bio and see if there's anything there, right? Clearly, this is a good example. He's got 24 startups in his bio right here. And I guarantee you, anybody who's doing anything cool is in shipping stuff and building stuff has proof, like you said. Proof of like, it's like crypto is like proof on the chain. This is on the chain right here, saying like, this is what I did. I put myself out here. This is what I built. You can be the judge if it's any good or not. Then there's some people that don't even have anything in their bio, and it's like, I'm pretty sure you don't ship, or if you do and you're afraid to put it in your bio, whether it's LinkedIn, Twitter, or whatever, then I think that's a good, like you said, litmus test or eye test on if you want to work with someone, if you want to partner with them, if you want to pay them to do stuff for you, you got to see something in the bio.
Yeah. 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 So he was super impressive. There's obviously so much more I'm excited to show off once the video comes out, but that was like one of my big things there. It was like build a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And kind of I've heard this like shared online is like increasing your area of luck.
Yeah.
So you can look at John and say, he got lucky, make a bunch of money. But you're like, well, I don't think he got lucky because he gave himself so many opportunities to potentially win that there's no way it's luck.
Well, yeah, it can't be luck because he has multiple apps making lots of money. So actually, I think he's not lucky at all. Like he doesn't have one thing. Like I would say luck would be like you launch one thing and it is $1 million business or what, even more. I would say like he's not very lucky at all. You ship 24 apps. There's no luck involved at all. Like you said, you get maybe a little bit of luck with shipping so much and increasing that surface area. But this is raw hard work, I think. Which shows you if you can ship lots of things, this is a good strategy.
So yeah, that was John. Anything else you want to say about him?
Yeah, the only other thing, what do you think about because this is kind of a popular thing that you hear about sometimes, is like small bets or, just like throwing shit at the wall, 12 startups in 12 months. What do you think about that strategy?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna say it from like my beginner perspective. Is probably like my immediate thought is like, that seems smart because there's a saying some guy said, it's like action produces information. So like by shipping a bunch of stuff, you're going to learn, hopefully, this works, this doesn't, or I actually don't care about this versus I do care about that. And so it seems like a better bet than which to be honest, I've fallen into the second category a lot. It seems like a better bet than like sitting on an idea or potential idea for years.
Yeah, I think that there's like a difference. It's like there's two spectrums. There's like one side is like, I believe so much in this one idea that I'm going to like will this thing into existence, which I think is actually really good. It doesn't have to be like one startup, but it's like one idea, like my idea of, I don't know, AI or something like that. And then there's this other side of the spectrum, which is like, I'm going to ship so many different things and I'm not going to like give a shit about any of them. And I'm not going to have any ego attached to any of the products. Yeah. I feel like if you're on either sides of that spectrum, you're good. But if you're somewhere in the middle, then it's not so good. To also have ego but have too many projects is kind of like bad.
Yeah, it reminds me, what you're saying reminds me of like this post that we've shared a bunch. This is what you've shared online. It's like 72% of my projects failed, 20% were average, 2% were successful. Keep throwing shit at the wall and see what sticks. And so you share this, like all the different stuff you've built, how much it made, if it's dead or alive.
Yeah. And when I look back on that, it would be the advice that I would give to someone to do because it obviously worked out for me. But also I look back and I realize how stupid it was. So it's like, it's this catch-22 for me where I'm like, it was good that I did it, but I look back at like trying all these different random things and I don't regret it or I wouldn't do it differently, but it probably took me a lot longer to reach my goals or, I grew slower because of this strategy, I think. But also maybe it was the reason that things worked out. So it's very like controversial in my head about like, should you go and build a bunch of random things or go and just believe in one idea? And I think the better approach is believe in one idea and then go build a bunch of things around that idea. And that's what John Rush does well, I think. All his apps help all his other apps. Peter Levels is the same thing, right? He builds the Nomad list, which is for nomads, and then he builds remote work job boards. So nomads want to get remote jobs. And then, he builds other, he does all this AI stuff and there's interior AI. But then if you like that, you can go to the main AI one. I think John also does that too well, is like, oh, I need an SEO tool. He told me, he's like, inside of his SEO tool, SaaS, there's a button that says, I don't know what it was, social media. Do you need to post this on social media or something like that? And then it goes to a social media tool. Yeah. I'm making up the tools right now, but it's this idea of cross-selling and like, okay, you built up all these customers on your first startup, then go and build a very similar product, not a similar product, but another product that serves that same customer. And you shortcut the 2, 3, 4, 5 years that you need to go into a whole new category. I was talking to another founder, I won't mention the name, but he had a successful business doing well. And I'm like, what are you going to launch next? And it was something totally different. And I was like, well, why don't you just create something you have like thousands of customers here. Just create something, but put it on a new site and just make it a new product. And then you'll double your revenue. So that's what I think John does well. And I think that's maybe a little bit of a secret there.
Yeah, like a little ecosystem or something.
Yeah, ecosystem. Yeah.
It's probably not too dissimilar from like even this channel, Star Story Build from the main channel.
Yeah.
They're like slightly different, but it's under the umbrella of like business ideas or startup founders, etc. Like it's, you can imagine where we like kind of continue to branch out into this little world. Yeah.
And it's funny because my 100K challenge that I'm doing, the YouTube thumbnail generator is pretty unrelated to what we do. Like, look, I could go and it's part of the reason why I wanted to do that as the idea is because it would be harder. I could go and build, I don't know, a business idea generator or something related to Starter Story I could just immediately capture all of our customers and I could probably generate 100K a lot faster. It is a little bit playing a hard mode with the 100K build challenge, but it's an interesting thought,
Yeah. Yeah. So it kind of like takes you back right to like this idea, like I don't know if there's like a right path or anything like that, but it's like this balance of building a lot of stuff because, you're going to get information when you do it. Yeah. But not going in too many different directions. I think even here, you posted this and this guy, Jason Cohen.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He's like,
he said, oh, keep throwing shit. It's just shit. A little more effort to ID might be 10x more successful, more likely to find something that succeeds. So yeah, it's kind of interesting. Yeah. Just sort of those competing thoughts there.
Yeah. I think he built like $1 billion company or something like that. He started, some WordPress thing, WP Engine. Yeah. But he hates this idea of 20 startups. And the thing is, look, there's not one recipe for anyone. There's the John Rushes of the world that are crushing it. And there's also the Jasons who have that one idea. And who are you to say that one way is better than the other? Because people are different, right? Yeah. If you are John Rush, you like doing a bunch of different things. You're Peter Levels. You like to ship different things. If that works for you, then cool. I mean, I can show you many examples of both. So
Yeah.
I know what works for you,
All right, let's go to the last guy. The last guy, his name is Leandro, or Lean on here on Twitter. And he built a tool called Sync to Sheets. And so Sync to Sheets, I think the TLDR of this is like, what does this do? And like you can build dashboards and stuff and sync between Notion and Google Sheets.
Yeah.
And he's not making $1 million a year, so it's not like these other two guys, but he's making a good living for himself. So let me throw it over to you first on like what you think of this.
Well, he lives in Argentina, first of all, which I thought was cool. This business was doing somewhere like $10,000-$20,000 a month or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's a crazy good living in Buenos Aires. I was in Buenos Aires last year. It's very cheap cost of living there. So that's cool. What I think is cool about this is it's really simple. My guess is that sometimes I look at like the John Rush's one is he's got 24 startups. Imagine the customer service operation there, right?
Yeah.
The customer service there is pretty intense, right? There's a bug in like 15 apps probably a month. This is a very, very peaceful idea. It doesn't make $1 million, but it does one thing. And I'm guessing that the customer support on something like this is pure profit. But what I want to say is this is pure profit, which I thought was cool. And he basically told us that. And he also told us, he was like, hey, sometimes I just take a month off and I just go like chill at the beach, right? Didn't he say something like that?
Yeah, he did. He said something like that, or like he'll take off or only work like 2 or 3 days a week or whatever that is, something like that.
So he's making the equivalent of probably $500,000 a year US salary with this. I'm coming up with the numbers sort of random, and he's chilling on the beach for like half the time. Yeah. That guy, I got good vibes from that guy. I really, really like his business, even though it's not $1 million. It's like just an awesome business.
Yeah. This is like a quintessential starter story business, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like it's this guy. I mean, he'll share more of his story with us, but he kind of found this little problem, built like this little sync integration thing, and now like that's what he does full time. And that's something you talk a lot about, is like trying to find a like pointy solution. Yeah. Like meaning, I think what you mean by that is like an app or business that does like one really specific thing.
Yeah.
That's, for some reason, a lot of people like have that little problem.
Yeah.
And I think, that's what like this business seems like to me, because it's just like a sync thing between Notion and Google Sheets. Like, it's so like specific.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is what you say, like people have this problem. Yeah, people have this problem, but it's really businesses that have these problems. I see this as like a micro SaaS. And I really like micro SaaS, like one feature that can capture, I don't know, you charge $100 a month and you have 100 customers, and then that you're making $10,000 a month. Like it's really that simple in terms of the business here. But that's what the internet created. The micro businesses could never have been possible at this sort of scale until the internet came along. And I have so much I want to share about this, like why this is genius, but I want to save it for the video because I think a lot of people can go take this idea and do it for lots of different platforms and tools. But I do want to save that, and I want to hold back a little bit. But I do think this is genius. So look out for that video that we're going to do with him, hopefully. But yeah, there's a lot on like the strategy of it that I think is cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And the last thing I wanted to share, it just reminds me, and I'm sharing this because this tweet kind of blew up for us this week. We did a tweet on, we every time we talk about it, it blows up, but it's this business called Bank Statement Converter, which we've talked about before. And he shared on Twitter, like he's making $38,000 a month from this app called Bank Statement Converter, and it just like converts Excel files or PDFs into Excel files. Like that's what this does.
Yeah.
And it's literally this one page. The pricing is pretty simple, but my point in sharing this is just like it's another example of one of these like micro SaaS businesses. I mean, who knows? I don't really know a lot about him. We are going to talk to this guy actually next week. But that's crazy. Like this little website makes $38,000 a month. That feels kind of crazy to me. And that's like, it just reminds me of what Leandro was sharing with Sync to Sheets.
Yeah. And he didn't even spell his own business right. Bank statement converted. This shows that this guy doesn't give a fuck, man. I love it. This
I
is
didn't even see that. That's hilarious.
this is this is where you want to be, I think. For anyone watching this, a micro SaaS, pointy solutions, serve businesses, single features, try lots of things, then just go build more things related to that customer and
Yeah.
have a great
Yeah.
life.
Have a great life. Do you ever kind of think like, man, we make a bunch of YouTube videos. I should just build a little
Yeah.
thing here.
Well, I tried. That was kind of like my dream when I started out, was to have maybe like that, more of that type of business. But it turned out I sucked at it.
Yeah.
I couldn't. I was too. Not that I sucked at it. I was way more passionate about creating content, sharing stories. I didn't really like care at all about converting bank statements, right?
Sure.
I couldn't find that thing that I thought was like super cool. I was like way more into this. So
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's fair. Cool. Yeah, excited to bring this guy's story. I think it's going to be, I think a lot of people will like this one.
cool.
Cool. Well, those are the three people. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second, but final thoughts, takeaways, anything else you want to say?
I mean, I would just pass it back to you and see like, well, now that we talked through it, like what are what's probably the biggest thing that you learned? Because I think our audience, people watching this, maybe have some similar thought. I've been talking to founders on the phone for so long that it's the only thing I know. So I'm curious
Yeah.
what you got from it.
Yeah, I think like what I said up at the top, like there's so many different paths to take, and all these guys are just like regular dudes for the most part. Like there's something unique about each of them that made them successful. And so it just gives me a lot of like confidence, I guess, that anybody, even me, even you, whoever's watching, find their little path,
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be like insane or crazy or even like that grand to be successful, or to be whatever like successful means to you, like to do that. So that's kind of mine, or one of them, at least.
It just shows you that there's no steps, like there's a lot of videos online that talk about this step, that step, and, follow these steps and this business model, whatever. But each of these people, which we talked to basically in the last week, they are like super crazy different backgrounds. One guy's from LA. The other guy lives in Turkey on a farm. And this other guy lives in Buenos Aires and just like chills on the beach all day. And like, but they're all the same, but they're all different. And, but they didn't have like some sort of specific, step-by-step playbook that they followed. They just showed up every day and they didn't quit. And it took a few years. But now they're set for life.
Yeah. And I think that's what drew me to Starter Story initially. I was a fan and follower first before I kind of worked here, is like that same idea of like, man, there's lots of paths, you just got to try.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for watching. Let us know in the comments if you liked this format. Basically, I talk to founders behind the scenes all the time to make sure that they can be a great YouTube video and they're not just trying to sell their course or something like that. So I figured, why don't we just turn this into content so that you can get super fresh business ideas. I feel like this stuff is super fresh. Probably, hopefully you hadn't heard about it before, or at least some of them. So let me know in the comments if you liked this format. We will do this again and again because we're just talking to founders all week. Maybe we'll continue to iterate a little bit more on it too and bring some people on. Who knows what we'll do. So thank you guys for watching. This has been the Starter Story podcast. Check out Starter Story Build. I'll put a link in the comments if you want to build with AI. In 12 weeks, you'll come up with an idea, ship it, launch it, get your first users. So check that out. Otherwise, we will see you in the next one. Have a great weekend.